If after trying the above techniques you still have undesirable behavior, then you may like to implement what's called a behavior modification program. So, the first thing to do is to identify the desired behavior and then state it clearly and specifically in positive terms. Try to be as specific as possible. So, for example, say, I want Johnny to use his words and to express himself and to share nicely with his classmates. Don't say, I want Johnny to stop hitting other people. Okay, you want to state it in the positive. Next, determine a reward for the child. So, to do this, you must know the child and choose something that is rewarding to the child. Different people consider different things to be rewarding. So, one child might love matchbox cars. So, that would be, a great reward to do with that child. Another child might not like that, though. So, that's why it's important to know the child and to choose something that is rewarding to the child. I can tell you that almost all children are very responsive to stickers and stamps on their papers and things like that. That gold stars, those are very effective rewards for children. One thing to keep in mind is never use food as a reward. And the reason for that is because we want children to think of food as nothing more than really a source of nutrition. We don't want them to think of food as a reward or something that consoles you, because this can actually lead the foundation for issues with food as an adult or even full blown eating disorders. And another reason why is because we do have a major problem with the childhood obesity epidemic. And so we prefer that you do not use food as reward. So try your best to think of a non food reward. Next, catch the child behaving well. So now you have to really be on guard and looking for the child to be behaving in a positive manner. And as soon as the child behaves well, then you want to reward them with verbal praise or the reward that you've decided for the child. So, for example, pass out the crayons, and then before Johnny has a chance to get frustrated, compliment him for working nicely with the other kids at his table, and then give him the sticker or whatever reward you've chosen. And then this last one is very important. Remember, wait for the child to display the desired behavior on his or her own and then surprise the child with the reward. Do not set up a bribe in advance. So, this is one of the most common mistakes that parents and also even teachers make with children, is that they tell the child what the reward will be in advance of the behavior. So essentially they are bribing the child to behave in a desired fashion. So while that might be tempting for parents because they might think, oh, it's just easier to bribe the child, it's actually not going to be very beneficial, because this can really backfire, and you're going to be teaching the child that they should only behave in a positive way if they get something out of it. And we want the child to focus on the intrinsic reward, not the extrinsic reward. We want the child to behave in a desirable way because it's just nice to be a good person, to clean their room because it's nice to help out the family and to help their parents and to do their part, not because of, oh, I'm going to get some money or I'm going to get a toy or I'm going to get a prize. So instead, wait for the child to display the desired behavior on their own and then surprise them with the initial reward. And you will find that it is so much more effective if you do it that way and don't make that mistake of bribing your child. Now, if the positive reinforcement, all these tips and the behavior modification isn't working, then you may want to use the timeout method. Now, sometimes children do need to know that there are consequences for their behavior. And so the best thing to do is not physical punishment, but use this timeout method with the small children. Now, remember, it should be used very sparingly. So the timeout method is not something that you should be doing, 10 times a day. Okay. It's something to be used rarely, if at all. All right. So when the child behaves in the undesirable fashion, bend down to the child's eye level and calmly explain to the child that their behavior is inappropriate. Don't have a strong reaction, as this can be reinforcing to the child and will backfire. Next, escort the child to the timeout area. Make sure the timeout area is a neutral, boring place, such as a hallway, so if the area is not reinforcing. Another really common mistake that caregivers make is sending the child to their room for timeout. But because most children's rooms are really wonderful, colorful places with lots of toys and stuffed animals and posters on the walls and games and things to do, the room is actually, their bedroom is not a punishment or a consequence. So that ends up not working. So you'll want to just maybe put like a little chair in the boring hallway, or it depends on your house, but try to find an area that is just very sort of neutral and plain. Next, instruct others not to talk to the child while he or she is in timeout. So that might include other siblings, or if it's like a preschool environment or something like that, you would tell the other children, just say something like, hey, Johnny's in timeout right now, so he can't talk, and just instruct the other people not to engage the child because, again, that could be reinforcing. A really good thing to do is to use a kitchen timer to make the concept of time tangible to the child. So from Piaget's cognitive stages of development, we know that abstract concepts are very difficult for children to understand. So time is actually an abstract concept. So a small child, if you tell the child, oh, I'd like you to stay in timeout for 5 minutes, they really won't understand what that means. And they might think that means 5 hours or 5 days. And so to make it so the child can understand, I highly recommend that you use a kitchen timer. Then you simply set it to the time of, you want the child, to the correct amount of time. And then now the child will understand. You just say when the timer dings, then you're out of timeout. So I highly recommend using a kitchen timer to make the abstract concept of time more tangible. And then there's a really easy way to remember the appropriate length of time, which is 1 minute of time for every year of the child's age. So for example, a 3-year-old child should stay in timeout for 3 minutes, a 4-year-old for 4 minutes. And that's the way it works. And it's just an easy way to remember the amount of time that will be appropriate for the child's stage of development. Then when the timer goes off, allow the child to leave timeout. Then if the child repeats the undesired behavior, then calmly repeat the timeout procedure. So often what you'll find is that after the child is released from timeout and goes back to the play environment, often they will immediately repeat the undesired behavior. Why do they do this? Because they are testing you. They're testing the adults and they're trying to figure out how this whole timeout thing works. So if they do that, you simply repeat the timeout procedure in a very calm way. Again, don't have a strong reaction. And then lastly, remember, it is very important that timeout is used in conjunction with lots of positive reinforcement and modeling of positive behavior. And if you do all of these things correctly, then this method will work for you.